I love to quote my older daughter, who says that I sure work a hell of a lot for a guy who's retired. And I think if you told me that I would be putting this much energy into something this much after retirement, I'm not sure I would have thought about it. But the rewards for me personally, when someone comes up to me and says, you know, you've changed my life. Wow. I mean, in all the years I was CIO, I can't think one time someone walked in and said that from a positive perspective.
I had one of those aha moments, and I'd like to share it with you. This last Sunday, Father's Day, I had the opportunity to go to the Inner Harbor in Baltimore with my daughter, my son-in-law, and my 7- and 10-year-old grandson. I don't know if you've ever been to the Inner Harbor, but it's a beautiful place, and my daughter lives in the suburban Baltimore area, so I've been there over the years. It's been a while. We were there for something called the Sail Abrasion, S-A-I-L Abrasion. And it was all about the tall ships. All over the world, they brought in these tall sailing ships. You know, I don't have been next to them. They're hundreds of feet high in the masts and the riggings. And we walked by one from Brazil, from Mexico, from Indonesia. And sitting in the midst of there was the USS Constitution. I think that's right. It might be the Constellation. Doesn't matter. Built a real ship, not one of these phonies. Built in 1854. That was used in the Civil War. Oh, there's a sobering thought now. Now, unfortunately, we weren't the only people there. I would say that there were about 100,000 people, and the lines to get on the ships were pretty long. And if you think about the staying power of a 7-year-old all the way up to me, we started to depart and walk back to our car through the quiet streets of Baltimore. And if you haven't been to Baltimore, it's a classic town. Street after street of row houses, no wider than your hotel room, 3 stories high, with a stoop out front, where everyone goes out and socializes every evening. It's really an old world, whole line environment. It's incredible. And the quiet of the street was compared to the 100,000 people down at the harbor, was amazing. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, was this enormous sound. And we looked up, and in the 10 to 15 degree window that you could see in the ceiling of the sky, flew the Blue Angels right down the street, like they were performing for us. And after they got by, my grandson said, "Papa, Papa, Papa, did you see that? They were out here, and their sound is back here. They're out in front of their sound." And my daughter was just shaking her head and said, "Can you imagine the coordination, the cooperation, the trust of those pilots to fly?" And if you've never seen wingtip to wingtip, 600 miles an hour over the populated area of downtown Baltimore, and never, ever worry about they were going to be successful. And quite honestly, I've seen the Blue Angels in many years, but I've never seen them when I felt they were performing for me. They flew, honestly, got right down the street, and you could see the Blue Angels on the other side, underside of their wingtips, and what's equivalent to 40-point font on a PowerPoint. It was there, and the wingtips were overlapping, and I thought, what a presence. And in the 3 seconds it took them to fly over, 3 generations of my family were awed. Quite honestly, the Blue Angels trumped old ships real quickly. And my thought was, when I started to think of the comments of my family, aren't those some of the issues about leadership? Isn't that some of what we're trying to do, is get out in front of your noise, make yourself to the point where people create a relationship of trust, where people trust you at speeds that might not be acceptable, and you create a presence when you walk in the room, everyone goes awe. So my challenge to you is, if we could come out of this meeting and create just a couple of groups of Blue Angels, what a fantastic accomplishment that would be for this meeting. So my challenge to you is, go home, go to your group, and be a Blue Angel.